But can you kind of speak on what's the difference between the risk that, you really took in terms of starting the business versus the risk tolerance as someone to just be a franchise owner? What's kind of the risk tolerance? Do you need to be someone that is willing to take a huge risk to be a franchise owner? Or where does that kind of stand?
Yeah, no, that's a good question also. When you start your own business, and I think the select few people that can just like grow something organically is very finite because when you're starting something just organically, a one-off, this is my one business. One, you never know if there's going to be a single customer coming through the door, right? Like you could open the door, and I've had those moments where, hey, we're going to open the door Friday at 10 o'clock. Will anybody ever buy our product, or will it just fizzle out from day one and it'll never happen? And the amount of those businesses that happens to is fairly substantial.
Mm.
People have a great idea for a business that they saw while they were on vacation, and they come back and, hey, we're going to do this, and it just doesn't rinse and repeat like that. So
Yeah.
there's just so much more risk just with the model itself. But then just also on top of that, trying to figure out, in the world, there's always a different challenge. Today's challenge is the workforce. It's hard to get people to work. And franchises have such an advantage to recruiting people because of the power of the brand, because how good they are at recruiting and the software that they have to bring people in. We have people applying for positions through the website, and we're pushing these recruiting tools to our franchisees. So it's just such a competitive advantage to
Yeah.
just have that power. And that the business model has worked. In our
Yeah.
case, we've proven at this point that the business model can work in an urban environment, a suburban environment. It can work in Mississippi or Florida or California or Massachusetts. And we've now proven it can work in Hong Kong and Ecuador and Peru and Indonesia.
Mm.
So you know that the
Yeah.
business model works, so that I think is the big difference. It's really hard and cumbersome and expensive to learn things on your own the hard way.
Hmm. Yeah, you just dropped a lot of gold right there. And, something as I'm speaking on the phone with clients, that's always one of the things I talk about in the validation process as people they have questions and you kind of talk about discounting yourself before you're actually able to validate the opportunity. I always tell people you're going to get the opportunity to speak with other franchise owners. And that's one of the big things is that I tell people, can you validate with markets that are similar to the territory you're looking to grow? Are they just in suburban markets? Are they just in the Midwest, just in the South, just in Canada? You got to evaluate how it'll actually do in your market and similar markets. So it's such a competitive advantage. And another thing that you said that's very interesting is just the power of brand recognition. Because as I'm on the phone with people and we're talking about people discounting themselves, it starts off with, oh, well, how are employed? Well, it starts off with what does the money look like? Then if we get through that, it's, well, what about employees? And it's, well, what about marketing? Then why do I have to pay for that? And then resources, pricing. And the answer really is always the same, is that franchising provides all these resources and systems for you. And if they don't, that's not a franchise that I'm going to recommend on your behalf, because these franchises, they have the track record, the systems in place so that all these things that you're worried about, they have decades and decades of experience figuring that out and looking at your market specifically, so that rather than trying to guess, are people going to use dry cleaning in my market? No, you're going to speak with the franchise and they're going to tell you the exact number of people in that market, what their income looks like, how often they use dry cleaning. So just so big right there, not trying to discount yourself out, and how franchising really does provide you those tools. And before we're going to get into franchising soon, but there's two things that I just want to dive into, kind of going back